When was the first thing that was keeping, when did I first realize, what did you ask me? Oh, when did I first realize that my brain was the thing that was keeping me stuck? Honestly, it was not until 2019 when I met a UCLA neuroscientist who was offering a neuro leadership training program, and I felt compelled to enroll in her program. I had been doing a little bit of studying about the subconscious mind and the brain because I stumbled across a podcast on YouTube years ago, and they were talking about the subconscious mind, and they were talking about the brain and how our subconscious mind, or the subconscious part of our brain, controls our life, right? That we basically are just living our lives on autopilot. And that is why the same things tend to play out in our life over and over again. And I was so intrigued by that because I was somebody that my entire life, it felt like, I don't know if you've ever been here, but I felt like I had a curse on my life. It was like no matter how much I prayed, no matter how much I tried to live right, that just things just kept happening in my life, like bad luck, omens, you know what I mean? And I really had convinced myself that I was cursed. And that might sound silly, but that's just my truth. And obviously my relationship with religion played a huge role in me feeling that way. Like I was in a religious culture. I wasn't raised that way. My mother had a very healthy relationship with God, but I ended up in a very cult-like religious culture where there was a lot of talk of demons and demon possession, and that we could be not only possessed or oppressed by the devil and demons, but that we could be tricked. And so I just, and that our disobedience was, going to bring in all of these negative experiences. And so it was just a combination of me feeling like I was unlucky or that I was cursed. And then even as a child, there were times I just remember feeling like I was just cursed and unloved. So all of that just kind of culminated together. So all my life as a young woman, I just had accepted that my life was just cursed because bad things just kept happening. And I used to be a pastor, and I ended up closing the church. We'll talk about that later. And once I closed the church and did not have the responsibility of attending church, I started to do some studying, deep dive studying on other topics. And one of those topics that I ended up studying about was the brain. And so I do believe that we attract into our life whatever our thoughts are on most of the time. And so I ended up attracting this neuroscientist from UCLA who, again, was offering a program where she was training coaches how to use neuroscience and neuroplasticity in their coaching businesses. And I really wanted to learn. I was fascinated. And at the time, I was just starting my consulting business, my coaching business. I was full-time at that point, was really looking for ways to scale my business. But I think more importantly, I really wanted to just have more knowledge of myself, understand myself better. And I was just blown away. She started to talk about the different parts of our brain, like the limbic system, which is where the amygdala is, the part of the brain that is responsible for processing our emotions. I learned a lot about how the amygdala is really wired for fear-based decision-making to keep us, safe. The brain does crazy things to keep us safe and to protect us. And I learned about, the memory center in the brain, and I learned about the prefrontal cortex and the frontal lobes, which is the CEO of the brain, which is the part of the brain that is responsible for making, high-level decisions, executive decisions, the planning that needs to be done, the rational thought, the logical thought. But if the amygdala is hijacked, and if the brain is releasing a lot of cortisol, that it will take the prefrontal cortex offline. And the only part of the brain that's really working for you is the limbic part of the brain, the emotional brain. And that's why a lot of our decisions are based on, not just our emotions, but like on autopilot. We just do the same thing over and over again because our prefrontal cortex is not online to help us make those complex decisions. And so that's the first time that I began to get a realization and a revelation that maybe I'm not cursed after all. Maybe this is not bad luck that I've been experiencing. Maybe there is nothing wrong with me. Maybe the reason why I've experienced all of these bad luck incidents is because of my brain being wired a certain way. Maybe my brain has just been on autopilot. And I learned about neural pathways, which are brain cells or neurons that communicate with each other. And that whatever we do regularly, repeatedly, with repetition, whether it's thoughts, whether it's actions or behaviors, they create pathways in our brain. And if you've never done a certain thing, or you've never experienced a certain thing or had a certain belief, that you don't have a pathway for your brain to travel on for that new thing. And that the only thing the brain will default to is the pathways that are already created there. So no matter how much you might want to change or do something different in life, if you don't have a pathway, built in the brain for that new outcome, that you won't be able to do it, which is why we start things and we don't ever finish because we don't do it long enough to create a pathway. And it was during that time that I got the revelation. I realized that a lot of the reasons why things were repeating in my life, these patterns kept showing up, is because my brain was just defaulting to these old, outdated pathways, and that I didn't have any new pathways in my brain for any new behaviors, which means I couldn't get any new outcome. I couldn't get any new results because I didn't have any pathways for the new results that I wanted. And I got to tell you, it was a game changer. I think that's what sets our consulting company apart from a lot of the other consulting companies and coaches out there. One of the things I'm really excited about is that I get to help women like me, credentialed women, educated women, professional women, smart, brilliant, bright, spiritual women, understand themselves in a deep way from the inside out. I teach them about neuroplasticity. I teach them that their brain has been wired to operate and function a certain way, but that the brain is neuroplastic, which means it can be rewired, it can be changed with new intention, with new repeated behaviors. A lot of these women that I work with they have amazing programs that they want to offer, but they are stuck because they don't have pathways in their brain that convince them that they are worth charging what they really should be charging for their programs and their packages. A lot of them, they feel like they can't learn the tech, or they believe that they're not going to be able to attract any clients. So because their identity, like my identity, is what I call the helper identity. A lot of the clients that I work with, they are just like me. They come out of the church. They are church leaders. And so we have a conditioning in our brain that says, as women of God, as spiritual women, it is our job to serve, to help, to pour out to other people, to save everybody else, and to not expect anything in return. We are told and taught, and we believe that we should lay our lives down for the people and not expect compensation. In fact, we've almost been trained, and a lot of us have been conditioned to believe that to ask for compensation is ungodly, that is greedy, that is selfish. And so we have these deeply embedded beliefs in our brain that have been wired there for so long, and we didn't realize that they were going to transfer with us as we started to build our consulting companies, making it almost impossible to scale to 6 figures because of the beliefs that were so deeply ingrained in our brain, which were pathways, and because we didn't have pathways for charging $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 or more for our services, it was causing us to not only not make any money, but it was causing us to become discouraged and to internalize that as something being wrong with us. And so by the time these women come to me, they are discouraged, and they really think it's them. And so one of the first things that I do in our company before we even build out their business, and we have an amazing evidence-based offer where I teach business consulting, but through a lens, through a neuroscience lens, through a leadership science lens. But before we get to any of the strategies, we spend the first part of our time together in doing that identity work, doing that neuroplasticity work. We have to help these women to rewire those pathways that have caused them to shrink, that have caused them to doubt themselves, that have caused them to not want to show up. They need visibility in order to scale their businesses. They need to find their voice. They need to be able to articulate their story. They need to be able to talk about what it is they do. They need to be able to share what their intellectual capital is and the methodology and the frameworks that they use to help their clients get their results. But these women that are coming to me, they have been so wired for a negative self-concept that they don't believe in themselves enough to do that. So for us, our work is centered in doing that identity work. And so I teach them neuroscience and I teach them neuroplasticity strategies that they're going to use throughout the entire consulting building process. Because as they're building their businesses with the business strategies that we use, they're also building themselves with those neuroplasticity strategies. And they end up becoming somebody completely different like I did. They are unbecoming the version of them that hijacked their business, and they are becoming the version of themselves that they need to become to build those six-figure businesses. Every week I host a masterclass, a webinar. It's called Lead Like a CEO. We are using a lot of the evidence-based frameworks and diagnostics within my company to address the major myths that women have about starting their businesses. And I really try to show them using neuroscience what the real issue has been, to show them why their business has not been successful in terms of their revenue goals, in terms of their client attraction goals, in terms of them being able to create a brand for themselves. Like, this is all just because their brain has been wired for a low self-concept. And so I teach these strategies in the masterclass every week. We have women who are experiencing transformation every Saturday on that call. They're learning something that they did not know, and they're leaving that call with either a readiness to come into our mentorship program and the Six-Figure Consultant Academy so they can build their six-figure consulting company from the ground up, from scratch, using all of my neuroscience-based strategies, or they're at least getting off that call ready to implement some of the things that I've taught in the masterclass. They're able to apply some of those strategies and they're able to see results right away in their business. But the biggest breakthrough that I see these women have is loving themselves, sometimes for the first time, and being relieved in knowing that there is nothing wrong with them. And so I don't know who's watching this today, but to that woman, maybe you are like me, you got all the degrees, you're serving God, you have an amazing career, but you also have a desire to start your own company, your own consulting work. But you are internalizing so much about yourself that is keeping you stuck, right? And I want you to know that there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You are everything that you need to be right for this moment. And what I want to encourage you to do is to practice trusting yourself. And you do that by giving your brain small wins. So today I want to encourage you to do something small in your business, okay? It doesn't have to be anything monumental, but do something today to build some new pathways in your brain. Start telling a new story today about yourself. Start talking to other people about what it is you believe you're called to do in your consulting company. Go work on that landing page. Go work on that offer. Go work on your marketing messaging, right? Work on your signature framework. But more importantly, do that inner work, right? Do that identity work to know that your identity is not rooted in you having to serve and give and expect nothing in return. You are worthy. You are valuable, and you deserve to be compensated for your brilliance and your expertise. And if there's anything we can do here to help you with that, I want to invite you to come to our masterclass. They're free of charge. We host them every Saturday unless there's something else going on, and if that's the case, we'll let you know. Be a part of our email list by registering for the masterclass. Once you register for the masterclass, you're on our email list, and you'll always get notified of any events that we're having, any special offers we have. If you are someone and you know that you're ready to come into the Six Figure Consultant Academy, you're like, listen, this was my masterclass. You are more than welcome to send me an email. Go to my website, send us a message there, and let us know that you want more information about the Six Figure Consultant Academy, and I'll be more than happy to have my team respond. We get on a call, we'll talk about what it is you're trying to build, where you're stuck. I will share the Six Figure Consultant Academy with you to see if you're a good fit for it. This is the year, 2026 is the year that we're going to help at least 100 women build their six-figure ready consulting businesses from scratch, utilizing the very latest in neuroscience and neuroplasticity research. I believe in you, and I believe this is the year that you are going to do it. The word that I came into this year with was focus, right? I want you to be focused this year. And the second word that I came into this year with was audacity. I want you to have the audacity to do it in the face of adversity, in the face of your own fear. I want you to do it. All right, I want you to have the audacity to build your consulting company utilizing everything that you already know, okay? Neuroscience, learning about it, it changed my life, and it changed my business. And I'm on a mission to make sure that I help you learn neuroscience and learn neuroplasticity, learn how to rewire your brain and your nervous system so that you can build the business of your dreams. If you have not done so, make sure that you subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you back the next time. Grace and peace.